it's been something. It's like where I feel the most alive is when I'm like working on a project, and it's just, yeah, I love it. What's so interesting about the film industry is that there is no straight path. It's
Right.
just spaghetti. What I called it for a long time was dream adjacent, where I
I
was
love
like, I
that.
was using my skill set as a director and like a
Right.
filmmaker to pay my bills. But I wasn't telling stories that I was like really proud of or that I was excited to share with people.
Good day, filmmaker Chelsea Christer from the latest film Out for Delivery, which screened at Sundance and now is screening at South by Southwest. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm great. I am so excited that you're here. The film Out for Delivery, I think, resonates with so many people for the topic, for just the urgency of the issues that you raise, a ton of different issues in the film that I think will really resonate with an audience. But first, I'm curious, like, how you got involved in filmmaking. Did you know as an early kid, like, hey, I'm going to do this, or was it something that you learned as later on that you had a talent for?
Yeah, I've been a storyteller since I was a kid. It started with drawing, it went into like short stories, and then I like learned about photography and I started taking photos. And it was really in high school when I learned that all of these things that I love that tell story or evoke a feeling or make you realize something about yourself, whether it was like music, fashion, honestly, cinematography, all of these things can come together to tell a story. And as soon as I like learned that was a possibility, I was hooked. And
Right.
I honestly, I in high school, I decided to go to film school. I went to the Academy of Art in San Francisco, which was fine. But yeah, I just always knew that's what I wanted to do. And I think I was originally reticent to be a director, honestly,
Right.
because I can be a very pragmatic person. And I was like, I want to make a living. And I feel like that's going to be really hard. And it is very
Right.
hard, but so I was on the editing pathway for a long time. Like I started out as an editor. That's the first skill set I developed as a filmmaker and storyteller. And then, yeah, it was like a teacher who said, I think you're more of a director. Maybe you should try it. And credit to that teacher for making me do that because I just fell in love with directing and never looked back. So yeah, it's been something. It's like where I feel the most alive is when I'm like working on a project, and it's just, yeah, I love it. I love it so much. So I'm very grateful to be here today.
So that's a really great point. I haven't thought of it. So Slamdance recent festival, the director said they had 55% female directors. So do you think, looking back, that sort of like the idea of a director is a leadership position? Do you think generally, and it obviously each person is different, but do you think generally some women may stray away from that because it's saying, I'm going to be in charge. I'm like, taking charge. So there might be like a reluctance to say, to be that bold with it. Do you think there was some portion of that may have gone
Hmm.
into your reluctance to just say, hey, I'm a director, and it had to be someone else saying, I see that in you?
I think I think women inherently are great leaders and
Right.
gravitate towards leadership roles, but I don't think they are welcomed into those roles. And I
Right.
do feel like at the time that I was discovering about myself, about what role I felt most comfortable and suited in on set, like I didn't have a whole lot of great examples. I first experienced sexism like very abruptly on set.
Really?
And it's
Right.
just, I do feel like it was something where obviously, there are women out there who are directors. There are lots of women like filmmakers that I looked up to, but it
Of course.
all was just like so hard. And it's so much harder. Like, people don't take chances on us as often. Like, it's not the same kind of leapfrogging that a lot of like male directors experience. So I think like I was looking at it maybe not so much as like a woman in the industry when I was saying, "Oh, that'll be really hard," but just it felt you go to film school and everybody wants to be a director. Everybody wants to be a director, and I tend to be a little antagonistic in that sense where I te- I'm not saying I always fight authority, but I don't like to do what's expected of me all the time. I like to kind
Yeah.
of do my own thing, and I think seeing that everyone was like, "Oh, I want to be a director." I was like, "Yeah, so does everyone else." And then to be told, "Hey, you're a leader, like you have these qualities, you have these interests in all the departments that sort of, pave the pathway to being a great director. You should try it."
Right.
I think I was being a little bit contrarian maybe, but
That's
but then when I actually did it, I was like, "Oh, yeah, this is my calling. This is, like, what I want to do." And, yeah, I do feel like it has been very difficult to be seen as a director as a woman.
right.
The
Interesting.
number of times I'm on set as the director and I have somebody come up to me and tell me where I can set up the makeup station it's always,
Right.
like, a little bit upsetting, but I'm also like, "I get it. I'm the blue-haired girl on set. Sure,
Right.
sure enough." But it's also it's yeah, it definitely is upsetting sometimes that it's just not a thing that people think of first for women, and I do feel like it's shifting, but if
Yeah.
any of the statistics out of proper Hollywood come
Right.
across the screen, like, we know that it
Yeah.
isn't changing that much.
R
So, yeah, I think there's an inherent fear in it being more difficult as a woman, but it doesn't necessarily hold me back now. I think I was being my own problem, like, just being a contrarian and trying to be like, "Yeah, everybody else wants to be a director. I am gonna be working as an editor." So, I don't know. That's what it is for me anyway.
That's awesome, Chelsea. And your career, you've almost taken a contrarian path. Just looking at it, you made your first feature documentary, Bleeding Audio. You have bounced around from you do commercial work, you do shorts, you do features, documentaries. How did that come about? Do you just follow your interests and say, "Hey, this is what's speaking to me at this particular moment," rather than this consternated, like, "I'm going to first make a short, then I'm going to turn it into a feature and try to follow like a road map that almost everyone else is following?"
Yeah, I think what's so interesting about the film industry is that there is no straight path. It's just
Right.
spaghetti. And at least for me, I went to school in San Francisco and I fell in love with that city. And I wanted to try and build a film career there. But in order to live in San Francisco, you have to make
A lot of
quite a
money.
bit of money to pay the bills. And so the natural path for that is most of the work in the Bay Area is like corporate, industrial, commercial, like brand
Right.
documentary. And right out of college, I started working at a small production company that did like a
That's
lot
awesome.
of work for Adobe. And what that really did for me is I started there as an assistant editor and moved very quickly into producing and directing and doing like global travel. And what was great about that is I got the travel bug out of my system fully from that experience. But I got to travel the world and I had to be very quick on my feet and instinctual when it comes to filming like these brand documentaries. A lot
Right.
of the times it was just me and a DP. Sometimes I was able to hire some local crew and it was a way for me to understand the components that went into a production as both a producer, a director, and an editor, and what I had to be responsible for and what was like critical and essential in order to get a certain story across. Even if it was
Right.
like a at the service of some corporation, it was something that like, you know,
The
the skill
story.
yeah, and that's like what I think taught me so much about production. And as I built my like career in San Francisco, I kept trying to pivot to, oh, maybe somebody will let me do like something more creative or something.
Right.
And I just kept getting like shoved back into the producer position or creative producer position. There wasn't a whole lot of fostering like my growth as a director in that vertical of the industry. What I called it for a long time was dream adjacent, where I
I
was
love
like, I
that.
was using my skill set as a director and like a
Right.
filmmaker to pay my bills, but I wasn't telling stories that I was, like, really proud of or that I was excited to share with people. That's, like, not what I got into this industry for, and the where Bleeding Audio kinda came from, because I did have a couple scripted short films before Bleeding Audio, but they were, like, right out of college, and, one while I was working at one of these agencies, I, like, kickstarted, and it was called Sierra. It was a
Awesome.
short film that I think it was 2012 that I did that one, but what really came out of the brand documentary stuff is I like learned this skill set of documentary filmmaking. I learned how to like interview subjects and the matches were a band that like I had known for a long time that were friends and family of mine. And when they let me know that they were going to reunite, I was like, oh, I have access to this entire closet of camera gear and equipment. And I have access to this band, and I think their story is very compelling. I've always been very intrigued by that digital shift of the music industry that happened in the early 2000s and how it impacted bands. And the matches felt like this perfect case study to represent not only how hard it is to be an artist, especially in a digital era, but like how we redefine success when there is this saturation in the market and you can't break through the noise.
Exactly.
So yeah, and so that's like where Bleeding Audio came from is I was like, okay, I'm making brand documentaries. I can use this skill to make my first feature because it felt like time to make a feature after having done a few shorts and making
That
hundreds of like short brand docs. So that's where Bleeding Audio came from, and that was very hard. It took 6 years to make, and actually yeah, and actually our world
what?
premiere was on March 7th, 2020.
Oh,
Um,
nothing happened after that.
yeah, literally, and so we
Show
did Bleeding
wow.
Audio did eventually get into Slamdance, which just opened up a whole new world for the film and for me personally. Yeah, and then the shorts coming after that were really just my response to I'm not a documentary filmmaker at heart. It's a
Okay,
skill set I have. It's not a path
right,
that I'm super interested in pursuing. I've
right.
always been a scripted filmmaker. That's what I went to school for. It's what I wanted to do with my life. Recognizing that Bleeding Audio was opening doors that I didn't really want to enter was like hard after how much work
Interesting.
I went
So
in
you
into
thought
it.
like people wanted to see you as, "Oh, Chelsea, make this documentary," and you thought, "You know what? That's not my passion."
Yeah.
Ooh,
Granted,
interesting.
like I said, like if somebody came up to me and was like, here is a fully funded documentary and we would like you to direct it and this will be
Right,
your fee, then I'd be like, sure.
right.
If it's a story that I feel like I have the authorship to tell, sure, I would make another documentary. But that's not what I got into this business for. It's not the storytelling that I like to do. So yeah, it I feel like I got like very siloed into like documentary stuff and I had to prove myself as a scripted filmmaker again. So that's where I had a short on the circuit last year called Holding On Forever and then Out for Delivery eventually came out of this like need to iterate and prove that I know how to work with actors. I know
Oh,
how to break down a script, right? Whatever I got to do to just like,
and it's so brilliant, and I can't wait to talk with you about it. But one more question before then. What have you
yeah.
learned from having your films at these premiere festivals? Like you've been Slamdance, Sundance, South by. What have you learned that that's just like an opening door, like, and that you're ready to go to step A through Z at these festivals? Just meet as many people as possible. Going into like South by, what are you thinking? Okay, this is what I want to get out of this premiere festival.
Oof. That's a good question. Because I think I'm still learning what to expect. I like Bleeding Audio did Slam Dance, and there was a lot of response afterwards. There was a lot of
Right.
other festivals reaching out to invite us to submit. There was a few like industry outreach people like seeking distribution and stuff out of Slam Dance. But, like, I did festivals pretty diligently for Bleeding Audio, and then last year when I did Holding On Forever, I felt like I was practiced because like, I had done
Right.
a feature on the festival circuit, but also, like, Bleeding Audio, we screened mostly virtually because of the pandemic, so I didn't really get that
Interesting.
in-person
Right.
experience and that opportunity to, like, truly meet with my peers and engage with audiences in what I think is the most important phase of taking a film out is that and being an artist is that you come up, you make the story, you make the art, you make the thing, and then you bring it out and exhibition is the last phase. And a big
Right.
part of that is like the conversations, the feedback, and like the industry that, you can communicate with once those screen. And that just, that like we did our best to try and make try and emulate that virtually, but it's just not the
Not the
same.
same. No.
And when Holding On Forever, my short that was on the circuit last year, when I was done with that and I was taking it out, like I was so much more engaged with festivals. Like I knew what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, like how to meet and like just connect with my peers and other filmmakers and learn their stories and it's film festivals and especially regional ones, I think are really great to get used to it, Not as much visibility. You can learn how to Q&A. You can meet other
Right.
filmmakers who could be your future collaborators. And also there are audiences there that are usually so engaged and so excited to have filmmakers present for their screenings. And it's just
Exactly.
I think the regional festival circuit, I think is so important for up and coming filmmakers so that if and when you do get into a festival like Sundance, you can feel so much more prepared because
Right.
I've volunteered for Sundance since 2010. And so I had a long history of making the pilgrimage to the festival and understanding how the festival worked from like a operations perspective, but also getting to watch so many movies and engage with just like the artists and the audience. So I feel like I had a social understanding of what the festivals were
Right.
like. But when getting out for delivery into Sundance and being on the other side was nut. It was
Th
so crazy. It wasn't I've screened at so many festivals, but I've never experienced the response,
that's so
in
cool.
the way that Out for Delivery came through. Yeah, it was really amazing, and I I've had so many people just be shocked that, like, I didn't have representation, and after having had a feature, after having, like, getting into Sundance without representation, and suddenly all of these places come out of the woodwork, and I'm like, "Oh, is that it? Was that just, like, the cheat code that I didn't have? Working my ass off and getting a film into Sundance?"
I
It's
would've
been
done this
really
10 years
exciting.
ago. Yeah.
I was trying, but I wasn't
Right.
ready. So I think that's been, like, a very interesting yeah, just a very interesting thing to witness as someone entering the industry. And yeah, it's been I don't know what to expect out of South by. I've never been before, but I'm excited for it. I'm our A big portion of our team is gonna go, and I
That's
think we're
awesome.
gonna be doing like photo booths and stuff. I don't know, but we're gonna have fun. So I don't know what to expect, but Sundance was just such a I I think, like, for years, I had a whole vent with my friend Maria Miaya, who's a super talented director based out of Austin, and I visited her last year, and I just sat down, and I think I had a 2 glass of wine ramble about how I just want someone to open a door for me. Like, I just need an open door, and now I feel like after Sundance, I'm like, I'm in the lobby, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm in the lobby, and I'm waiting my turn. So,
Oh,
no,
I love
it's
that.
yeah,
And the film is incredible. Just thinking about
I think
how to describe Out for Delivery, it's lighter than you would think. When you talk, I'll let you explain what the film is without giving anything away, but it's lighter than what you would think. And I think that's due to a lot of your shooting choices. The musical choices are a little bit lighter than the topic. So how did you come up with the story for Out for Delivery? And when somebody is sitting down to watch it, what should they expect?
yeah, so Out for Delivery, I think the log line that we wrote is a terminally ill woman seeks end of life care through death with dignity. And essentially, she orders this medication to be shipped to her, and things go
Complicated
wrong.
Sue, right? Yeah.
Complications arise. And where it's a dark comedy, expect to laugh, maybe cry. I heard a few people have cried. But
100%.
for me, this film, so it was unfortunately very loosely inspired by true events. I learned of someone who decided to pursue end of life care, and all of this is real. Like they're able to now ship the medication because of the pandemic, so people are able to like do end of life either at like hospice or home. And, tragically, in the real story, the shipping company lost the package completely and
Wow.
did nothing to try and recover it or help them or anything. And so this person was then denied their
And
dignity, their choice. They were denied this choice. And when the story was told to me, I chuckled and I felt so terrible about it because I was like, this is the most tragic thing I've ever heard. Why did I
right.
laugh? And so when I started thinking about this, it was just haunting me, and I decided to try and write a screenplay to understand what was funny about this to me. And what I found in writing this was this just deep-seated frustration and convenience culture,
Yep.
and this idea that these corporate oligarchs and like these tech companies are going to make our lives so much easier. But I'm
Right.
really just finding that it's like disconnecting us more. We're no longer thinking
100%.
about each other when we're in like one of these processes together, right? We're no longer thinking about
100%.
the shipping people aren't thinking about the recipients. We're not thinking about like the quality of how what these shipping people are going through. And
Right.
it's I think the, like, convenience culture, the iteration of it, these CEOs making 9 figures while, like, these shipping people are making $9 an
Right.
hour.
Yep.
This disparity is just causing this, like, frustration and this disconnect. Like, we claim to be more connected than ever with our phones, but I just think we're more disconnected than ever. We're just lacking in
1,000%.
human
Yep.
connection and empathy, you know? Um, so I essentially
Absolutely.
wanted to make a film that, like, that expressed this relatable frustration that I think we all have with something like shipping today in its most extreme form, which is this delivery of
Right.
this end of life care. And I was like, I also knew it had to be a comedy because I do feel like laughter is such a unifying feeling. I feel like when people laugh at something, it's because they understand or relate, or there's some sort of, yeah, like relatability and connection happening there. And so when I was writing it, I used obviously the real story, but also the delivery mishap that happens in it to a neighbor, that happened to me with my brand new MacBook Pro that I had
Sure.
saved every penny for, and I it was delivered to the wrong house, and the shipping company was just like, "Oh, I don't know. We'll try calling the driver." It was shocking, and I think the quote when I thank goodness the house I went to, it was, like, someone who actually gave me my package because there was a good chance it wasn't gonna be one of those, and the guy said that the shipping guy made him sign for the package without handing it to him, and then when he signed for it and handed it to him, the guy went, "This isn't mine." And the shipping guy went, "You signed for it. It's yours now." And he just
Oh
left.
my god. Oh god.
And so I worked that into the screenplay because that was to me, I was just like, that's so emblematic
Right.
of what's happening, and it was real. But
Right.
also the scene in the film where she encounters this neighbor, I also wanted to make a little plug towards bodily autonomy and how our neighbors are maybe not empathizing with us as much anymore, and
Yeah.
they want to they like especially right now in the current
Right.
climate, everybody wants to, like, control everybody else's bodies and have an
Y
opinion when it's none of your
no.
business.
Right.
Please
Yeah.
just leave me alone, let me live my life and death, you know what I mean? Well, that was my opportunity to put a little bit of that messaging in there too.
Oh, it's so good, and it feels, like, fully encapsulated as a short. I feel like in a lot of shorts, you end up watching it, and it feels like it's a shorter version of a feature, and obviously, you can't blame those directors for creating like, a proof of concept with their short, but this feels like a fully encapsulated short film. Was that the intention that you had of utilizing the medium in a way that makes it stand out rather than feel like half of the story?
Yeah. I no shade to the shorts to feature pathway because I think it has proven effective for a lot of filmmakers. But I do generally feel when I write a short, it's because it's a moment. It's like I have
Right.
one thing to say, I have one thing that I think needs to exist in this space, and I don't want to overstay my welcome. And
Right.
so I wrote this as a short to be a short flat out. And pretty much every short I've made is exactly that, where it's
That's
not for a
awesome.
feature. And I think too, it just lends itself to the runtime. Like I think if you
Right.
want to really drive home a message, doing a short is like really great for that. I will say though, largely because of all the interest post Sundance in the film, I'm toying with an out for delivery feature, which I
Ooh.
originally was like, I'm not going to do that. I was like, that's I
Yeah.
already solved it. I don't need to overstay that welcome. But I have a couple of ideas that I think could make for a really fun feature idea of it, but it will be, I think, not what people expect necessarily. And that I think is what excites me about potentially doing a feature with it is I don't wanna do the exact same thing.
No.
I wanna take that feeling of disconnect and, like, kind of leverage these characters into a longer form, but I don't know, we'll see. We'll see what happens, but yes, it was written and intended to just be a short, and I am being convinced otherwise, and the
But
ideas that I'm playing with is fun. Yeah.
that seems like the best way for it though, right? Is that you don't leave watching it thinking, "Oh, I wish I saw more." You feel like that's a fully encapsulated story and you can take it as it is. And if it's expanded to a different story, that's fantastic, but it's not done in a way that the viewer has to think, "Oh, I'm missing out on something." So, that's really cool. So, Chelsea, you mentioned which a term I may steal. I'll give you credit. dream adjacent, which I absolutely love. I'm sure there's so many
Yeah.
people out there that can relate to that term. Do you feel like you've moved to dream personified? Are you still doing brand work? Do you feel like you are fully actualized in terms of the films you want to make? Obviously, like you said, if somebody wants to come and say, "Here, Chelsea, make this feature. Here's $5 million," you would do it. But do you feel like through like your work, you are able to feel fully actualized to the dream that you want to have in terms of filmmaking?
Ooh, big question.
Yeah,
I think I'm on the way. I think like any filmmaker, but in particular, just like with my long history as a Sundance volunteer, premiering something at Sundance was a long held dream of mine. And if
that's
I'm
awesome.
really honest, with Out for Delivery, I was like, this is the last one. I was like, I'm not submitting to Sundance ever again after this. I was like, I can't keep doing this to myself. Like I can't keep like submitting to Sundance and getting rejected. And then I think it's less of being a sore loser, just being like, hey, you know what? Maybe this isn't my path. Maybe it's a different one. I wasn't going to give up filmmaking or anything, but I was like, I was like, this is the last thing I submit to Sundance. And so the fact that it got in is just, it means the world to me. Out for Delivery, I feel is the most me thing I've ever made where it's in my voice so wholly that I am very excited that this is the thing that's resonating. I've been doing this for 15 years. Like I think it took a lot of time and just learning myself, learning my just like learning what my voice is as a director to get to this point, especially because I'm not like a financially privileged person. Like I have a partner who supports me, but I have to work. I can't just sit
Yeah.
in my films. Taking this
Oh,
long to finally get a short in a Sundance means a lot, but it's also because I haven't been able to prioritize my work as my number one thing. And I think getting into Sundance has been a long held dream. Always wanted to get something into South by, who would submit there too, but I never in a million years dreamed that I would have a film in both Sundance and South by Southwest. So currently I'm
that's awesome.
exceeding what I thought my biggest dream was. And it's getting both of those phone calls was just incredible. And I hope to do it with a feature next. That's the long dream is maybe I don't have to have a day job of doing like
Right.
corporate video anymore. Like I can just fully be a director, an indie film director. And that's the dream. We'll
It's
see what
so
happens next.
hard. It's so hard because you think people either doing YouTube creators or posting like a ton of stuff about their personal life on Instagram in order to get follow. It seems like exhausting when I think a lot of people just want to make thoughtful films and not have to worry about creating thumbnails and stuff like that for like videos and stuff
Oh
like
my
that.
God. Yeah, the day that I don't have to promote anything on my own on social media will be the best day. Like, if I can just delete Instagram from my phone and there's somebody else who's like being paid
Handles
to manage
everything.
social media, that is the dream. Like I would love to not have to promote my own stuff anymore. But I'm like I said, I'm in the lobby and I'm
Yeah.
really hopeful that like I can enter one of these rooms and make a feature next is the hope. So
That's so fantastic. Is there
we'll
anything that you
see.
could talk about regarding that? Like, obviously, you're going to South by with this film, but is there anything like and you mentioned you were working possibly on a feature project for Out for Delivery, but is there any other projects that you'd wanna talk about that you have in the pipeline?
Yeah, I can speak to a couple little things. So my lead actor, Deanna. So
Who's
Deanna and I met
fantastic.
so good, right?
Oh,
So good. So Deanna and I met a couple years ago and we started developing a feature script that is pretty nuanced and complicated. And I can't really say a whole lot about it other than if Out for Delivery was directed by Haneke, it might be like maybe a bleaker story, but we're still working on it. But a lot of life got in the way for both of us in
of course.
2024, and we are finally on our way to a first draft. And I'm really hopeful that we're able to take that one out. I think it's going to be a really interesting, weird genre bendy feature. I think
Awesome.
that'll be a lot of fun. And Deanna's a great writer and performer. And yeah, like they've been taking the lead on this script right now while I work on an Out for Delivery feature potential script. And then other than that, I have a few like feature scripts that I've written over the years that are in desperate need of rewrites, but are in a good place and good samples. And I think right now the thing that I was excited about making Out for Delivery for is I wrote a pilot a few years ago that nobody really understood the tone for. And so I thought Out for Delivery would be a great tone example for this pilot called Tumor Buddy. It's
Nice.
a dark comedy series about two women who become unlikely friends through their neurological tumor diagnoses. And it's very loosely
Nice.
based on my own experience. I'm fine.
Uh,
But
uh,
I just have found that a
good.
lot of people I know, when engaging with the US healthcare system, have a lot of grief and frustration. And I experienced that myself when I went through a diagnosis journey about 6 years ago now. And writing this pilot was very cathartic for me, but also what I have come to find has been very cathartic for other people too, because I think we all find a
Completely.
comical frustration with this healthcare system, and everybody has a story about it, and nobody knows how
Yeah,
to
talk
talk
about
about it.
unlimited material, Chelsea.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. It's crazy too, because when I was at Sundance, I was talking to other filmmakers about tumor buddies, and it was just like, it was almost like being in a therapy room where people were just like, oh my gosh, yes, like I have had this experience. I have also, oh my God, can you believe this and this? And oh, I like dealt with this when I was going through this. And it's just, it's it's incredibly upsetting that everybody has this
Right.
feeling, but it's to me, it makes me really excited about getting Tumor Buddies made one day. Because yeah, I hope we can have more of a cultural conversation about the lack of dignity that this healthcare system provides us, and how
Right.
doctors are really, like, not enabled to do great work because of insurance. It's crazy, it's crazy. So
Love it. I really can't wait to see that. That should be I think the next few years for you are gonna be phenomenal, Chelsea.
fingers crossed. You never know.
Yeah.
So
So
fingers crossed.
this is an indie film podcast. Love hyping other people's projects. That's one of the best parts about this, I'm sure, of going to the festival is that you're able to see other people's films. Two-part question with this. Is there any I'm sure that all you can answer all of them by South by in terms of films that you're excited to see, but is there one in particular that you think you're super jazzed to see? And then you can use the same answer for the second part, but separately from South by, is there any other indie filmmaker out there that you wish more people knew about?
Yeah. So at South by, I just barely made my schedule, so I'm all over the map in terms of what I'm excited to see. I will give a quick shout out. I already saw it at Sundance, but one of my new director friends, Addison, I'm not gonna say his last name. Sorry, Addison, if for whatever reason you hear this, but he has a film at the festival called Touch Me. It's like a sort of sci-fi horror comedy, and it's just a lot of fun, but that's screening at South by. And but what I am really excited to see at the festival for the first time is I really do want to see Death of a Unicorn. Maybe that's like a little bit too big in premiere. Like I have a bunch of the like smaller indie ones on my list too that I'm not going to be able to
Yeah.
recall the names right now, but I love a good like magical realism,
Hell yeah.
like dark comedy. It seems like it's a commentary on capitalism and using Earth's resources for not that could be for good, but for capitalism. And I'm like,
Right.
I have a feeling Death of a Unicorn is going to be something I
Big
love.
T
So I'm very excited about that one. And I hope I get to see it. And then for an indie filmmaker that I love, actually, my publicist sent over your question list ahead of time. And I was like, ooh, I'm glad this one came through because there's so many.
Right.
But one I feel like I have consistently been a big fan of that doesn't get enough credit
Yeah.
is Sebastian Silva. He's a Chilean director, and the first film of his I saw was called Old Cats. I saw it at Sundance 2011, and it just really struck me. Like there like whatever like chord it was resonating with, it was the same one in my heart. Like I just
Ooh, I love that.
absolutely like it 100%, we were on the same frequency. And I was just like, I think I'm obsessed with this director because everything, like all the characters are so grounded. And
Yeah.
sometimes the world is a little enhanced, like a little extra, a little not magical realism, but just it's almost like a if you turned up the volume of like just society to like 110 or 15%, then it's like normal grounded characters operating in that heightened reality. And he did a film called Crystal Fairy that had Michael Cera in it. That was I loved that film a lot. I think that same year he had a film called Magic, which was, I think, Juno Temple and Michael Cera in it, maybe. Also loved that one. And like he just tells these really grounded character stories in this extreme way. There was Nasty Baby is another one of his films that I thought was really great about like a gay couple seeking a surrogate. I the film goes full hog in the third act and I thought it was really fun and but also again like these really grounded character moments that really hit you. And then Tyrell is another one that the way that people pitched Tyrell is they were like it's Get Out without magic, where it's just like the whole film is like this bachelor party of microaggressions towards this black man who joins this group, and his name's Tyler but they keep calling him Tyrell, like that kind of thing. And like the
Right.
film is just it's so nuanced, but it's all again, it's all so grounded. And yeah, just Sebastian Silva. He's just so talented and such a good storyteller. And I'm sorry if you can hear my dog in the background drinking water.
No.
Um, but I yeah, Sebastian Silva, Chilean director. I adore his work and I feel like more people should know about him.
That's so fantastic, and it feels like how you feel when you are reading a good book, right? Like this idea of like you sitting down with an old friend, and it's fantastic filmmakers can make you feel like that. Like you just know like how they're gonna approach the characters, and it's just like great art. You can appreciate great art that way and like just learn to love all the different things, even if it's a different topic, learn to love something different about the person because like you're used to it. It's one of the great things about art.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, 100%. 100% agree.
This has been so fantastic. Chelsea Christer, the film is out for delivery, screened at Sundance. Now it's screening at South by. You said it started out feeling dream adjacent. I feel like you mentioned you're moving to the lobby. I feel like over the next 6 months, year, it's going to be like fully dream actualized. Thank you so much for fingers crossed. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. This has been such a fantastic conversation, and I'm cheering you on at South by.
Thank you so much. This has been great. Thank you. Thank you.